Braves today, welcome in. It is Lindsay Crosby. It is Ben Taylor. And the Braves have no chance of winning the World Series now.
It's over. Just cancel the season. Give the Dodgers the trophy now. No, I'm kidding.
Don't let anybody in the National League even play a game this year unless it's interleague play, which I absolutely can't stand already. So that makes it even worse. But the reason being is because you have an article up, Lindsay, and Yamamoto has finally finalized his deal. The rumor was out there. It is definitely happening now. He's with the Dodgers along with Ohtani, along with Glasnow. So the Dodgers, as far as not pitching this year because Ohtani can't go this year, but for the foreseeable future, they seem to have the mound locked up.
You know, on that real quick. So in the article that I wrote, it in essence talks about like the Braves still have a really good chance to win the World Series, right? Like, you know, they're still the second best favorite in it, all of MLB to win the thing and all of that.
Right.
On there, like two thoughts here. One, Ohtani taking all that time just to pick LA, and then Yamamoto taking all that time just to pick LA is like the guy in your fantasy baseball league that's drafting number 1 overall and takes 10 minutes to tell you, yes, I'm going to take Ronald Acuna Jr. Like, we knew you were going to take him at the very beginning. Why did it take you forever to do it? But no, here's the thing. Like, their rotation next year, like everybody's like, oh, they're unstoppable. Their rotation next year, I don't actually think is that great. Like, you've got Yamamoto, who's never pitched in MLB before. You've got Tyler Glasnow, who's pitched 120 innings in a season one time. And then Walker Buehler, their number 3, doesn't get back from Tommy John until like May or June.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously going forward, you're going to have other options. Like, they're going to have Ohtani in there eventually, and they have all these young prospects and things like that. But the whole point of the article I'm trying to write is, yes, the Dodgers have gotten better. Yes, they've taken over the number 1 spot in the betting odds to win the World Series. But one, betting odds aren't real life, kind of like Twitter. Twitter's not real life. Betting odds aren't real life. Like, part of the reason, though, odds are where they are is because they want to encourage action. But then also, it doesn't matter who the favorite is because baseball has just, we talked about it so much in October. Luck is such a huge part of what you do in the postseason. The goal is just to get there. And if you go back and you look, what was it? It was in the last 10 World Series winners, 9 different teams. Only one team won it twice in that span, and that was the Astros. And as we know, probably one of those shouldn't have counted. So, I mean, it's just because they're the favorites doesn't mean it's already over. I hate to remind folks of this. We were the favorites last year going into the postseason, and we didn't do it. So
why'd you bring that up again?
You know, but when we won it in 2021, we were a number 3 seed.
Yeah.
You know, this year it was a 5 seed and a 6 seed. So we still got to play the games. Atlanta's still set up with a better lineup than they have. I think Atlanta has just as much pitching as they do. The question will be for Atlanta who steps up to be a frontline option, but Atlanta's got just as much pitching as them. In my mind, a better lineup than them. And so season's not over yet.
Yeah, top to bottom, Atlanta's got a better lineup. Now, here's my thing is if I'm a Dodger fan, man, have they not painted themselves in a corner with all this money that they've thrown out to get these players that it's almost like they've guaranteed a World Series victory over the next 5 years? And if they don't do it, how many heads are going to roll? I mean, Robert's going to be gone. Front office going to be gone because you're talking 700 over 10 with Ohtani, 325 over 12 for Yamamoto. I've forgotten the numbers on Glasnow, but still
a lot.
It's a lot. You still got Freddie that you're paying a lot of money to. Mookie, you're paying a lot of money to. I mean, you pretty much have said Roberts has always had some sort of excuse. I don't think they have an excuse now, Lindsay. I got to be honest with you. I mean, if the Brave, I would feel this way if AA would have gone out and gotten not even 3 of these guys. If he would have gotten 2 of 3, if he'd gotten 1 of 3, I would have been sitting there going, okay, now you've painted yourself into a corner of World Series or bust, and you're going to see firings and terminations and coaching changes and everything else if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, the good news is Ohtani has an out in his contract. If Andrew Friedman leaves, he can leave too. So, But I think that Dave Roberts could get away with not winning it in 24 because there's so many well, Kershaw wasn't able to come back until midseason. Bjork didn't come back till midseason. Ohtani wasn't pitching. Yamamoto was adjusting to the U.S., all of that. He can probably get away with it once. But if they don't win it by 25, I don't see them. Like, it feels like, yeah, he's going to be on the chopping block. He's been there since 2016. The only one that they won was 2020, so it's the Mickey Mouse year that doesn't count. I say that in jest. We've celebrated Freddie Freeman's MVP trophy despite it being 2020. So, but yeah, I mean, he's led them to a winning record just about. I mean, like, not just about. Every single year he's won the division every year but one, and that was the year that the Giants won 107 games somehow. But they've made the World Series 3 times. They've won it once, and again, it was 2020. So yeah, the pressure's on Dave Roberts, and I feel like probably more so than any other manager in baseball.
Oh, I completely agree with that because everybody's talked about Snitker and pressure he's got. I mean, you can rattle off bullets that he has in his gun as well. I mean, you've got anywhere from Acuna to Riley to Olsen to bringing in Murphy, and he's proven that he can be good. He wasn't so much in the second half, but he can be good. And they're like, all we are is because Braves fans we're one pitcher away from winning it all. And I mean, how many times have you heard that? So I mean, Snitker's probably in the same kind of boat, but I just think that it's a bigger target on Roberts' back with Ohtani and Yamamoto now, especially since both should be pitching and acclimated. Now, I don't know Ohtani. I mean, I don't know when he's scheduled to come back on the mound. As far as 2025 is concerned, it may be around midseason because I know they'll want to get some work in on him. But, I just – when you got 3 guys that are set to toe the rubber in 2025 like that, and I understand Glasnow, like you just said, hasn't gone 100-plus innings in quite a while, but the pressure – he's got to be looking in the mirror going, man, if I don't win – the World Series and I'm saying 2024. You're giving him a year, and I get that because Yamamoto is going to have to adjust. But by 2025, I mean, I don't feel bad for him. I'm sure he's got some decent retirement money sitting in the background that he'll be okay with.
And what's great here is, despite all of these additions, like if you look at the upgraded projections for 2024. Atlanta's still projected to win the most games in baseball. Fangraphs has Atlanta winning 97 games, LA winning 91, and Houston winning 90. And it's like, honestly, the Dodgers went from 90 to 91 wins after Yamamoto. It upped them by 1, and Atlanta went from 97.4 to 97.2. Like that was the change. Atlanta is still favored to win the most games in baseball next year. Now, again, whoever the favorite is, it doesn't matter. But the point is, this is a good enough team to absolutely win the whole thing. And I even put in the article, like in case we forgot, that World Series had starts by Dylan Lee and Tucker Davidson.
Yes, I saw that.
And we still won the World Series. So Everybody's freaking out about pitching, like easy. I would rather have, like, Ian Anderson started game 3, which I was at. It was a great time. But I would rather know that Ian Anderson could be your game 4 starter, or Hurston Waldrop could be your game 4 starter versus, Dylan Lee and Tucker Davidson taking 4 and 5. So
it's tough for me to put my money on it right now based on recent history, and that's because of the way the Braves performed in the playoffs. But I will say the reason I understand why the odds are the way the odds are and why Vegas has it this way, the lineup top to bottom for the Braves, even though we keep talking about the pitching for the Dodgers, the lineup top to bottom is by far the best in baseball, in my opinion. Now, that's easy to say as a Braves fan, but we just talked about it on the last pod with Kelnick coming in, when he's going to be surrounded by anywhere from Michael Harris II to Acuna to Ozzie to Olsen, to even when Murphy's hot, what he's doing. And you throw in if Ozuna doesn't have his crap start like he did last year, he actually had a really good year last year. And if he continues that with his power numbers, I mean, it just line up top to bottom. I think There's a reason there are a lot of big buildings in Vegas, Lindsay, is because they're usually right. So the fact that they have Atlanta getting 97 plus wins, the Dodgers still right around 90-91. I'm not saying that that's going to definitely be what happened, and that's where you need to put your money if you're a betting person. But I will say that there's a good chance that it could very well happen. Speaking of money, make sure you call Ford Stokes today and talk to him. Nationwide Peak at 10 illustrations so you can learn how you can get 20% immediate income and account bonuses of up to 8% in annual interest growth. Call him today or log on to activewealth.com. Learn how you can work with Ford and his Active Wealth team. You'll be glad that you did. 770-685-1777. That's 770-685-1777. Lindsay, speaking of money, you also did an article on that, and that is something that the Braves this is probably in my guesstimate, this is the first time they spent this kind of money in the offseason. And a lot of people are wondering, well, where's the money going? And it's been shifted, and they're doing smart moves by bringing on a little extra money in order to drop somebody, in order to get a player, which to me is genius. Some people agree with it. Some people don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that Atlanta's strategy this offseason was we'll take on some bad contracts if we have to get the long-term control of these guys. And so I wrote about how in 2025, if Atlanta wants to, they can get back below the luxury tax because you do have a lot of contracts coming off the books. But and most of the money that you took on this year in all of these trades is 2024 money. It goes away after this year. So just looking at your 7 players with expiring guaranteed deals, if you don't pick up any of those club options for 2025, $72 million comes off the payroll, right? Now, $20 million of that's Charlie Morton, $14.5 million of that's Max Fried, and obviously we want Max Fried to be back. He'll be making more than that. We just don't know how much or where. But even after all of that, Atlanta would still have the 3rd highest tax payroll in baseball because you have so many players signed up long-term, and you don't really have a lot of arbitration eligibles in 25 either, because a lot of the guys that you traded, your Nicky Lopez's, your Michael Sorokas, guys like that, those were your arbitration guys. Like all you're really going to have, you're going to have Jared Kelenic, you're going to have maybe Ian Anderson that might get significant money in arbitration. We have no idea what's going to happen with Kelenic's offense this year. But Atlanta's in a really interesting place as they enter 25. Do they use this money to either bring Fried back in free agency or go get somebody else? Do they drop below the luxury tax for a year to reset the penalties because a third time going over would be a 50% tax.
Yep.
If they drop under it for a season, they come back to 20% for a first time. So there's a lot of different options. And I think what complicates this is the Bally Sports situation. Diamond Sports, who owns Bally or who owns the network, they have filed for bankruptcy. There is a tentative framework in place with MLB for them to broadcast games through 2024. And I believe the Braves are one of the teams they've already said would get their full rights payments. But after 24, they're not going to be broadcasting. And so Atlanta's going to have to find a new television deal. We don't quite know what that's going to look like yet. So obviously we don't know dollar amounts. We don't know anything to help figure out what could this team do in 25. And that's probably worthy of a much larger article and a thing dedicated solely to that. But the point is, Atlanta's payroll could go down on its own, not Atlanta shedding salaries, but it could go down on its own. And then you have options to slot in some younger cost players, a Hurston Waldrop and AJ Smith-Shawver in your rotation. There's options at DH if you don't want to pay $16 million to bring back Marcell Ozuna, which that's a whole nother article that I also wrote on BravesToday.com about what happens to DH in 25. A lot of different options here for Atlanta, but just kind of interesting. I noticed that and wanted to write it up about how they're paying a lot of money now, one of the biggest payrolls in baseball, despite what people might think. But there is an opportunity for them to save some money in 25 if they choose to.
Well, I think everybody focuses on those long-term deals that are fairly cheap. The Ozzies of the world, the Acuñas of the world. You and I talked about this off pod before where we discussed Acuña's probably going to get paid at some point in time. And I think that's going to be more of a gesture of the organization saying, listen, this is our opportunity to let you know where we stand with you loyalty wise. And that's probably why he's going to get the money, even though he's not set to get the money until his contract is up. You and I said we foresee that happening probably before then, but still they would have saved money. And it's all about that 25-year and save. My opinion, bring back TBS, baby. That needs to be our TV rights holder. Bring back the good old days. Let's bring back the old logo that we stick up in the top left corner.
The music.
The music, everything.
Skip Carey's grandkids, they are minor league baseball broadcasters. He has, Chip's sons are twin boys. They're broadcasters. If you want to get a Carey back that's not Chip, because I don't want it to be Chip. If you want to get a Carey back in the booth to go along with the move back to TVS, there's guys out there. You could do it.
Yeah, that would be absolutely awesome if they did so. So, as always, a lot of information. I look forward to seeing what goes on in 2024 with Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow over with the Dodgers, and if the Braves can win, because everybody but Vegas has gone ahead and said that they're going to be the number one, even though Vegas chooses otherwise and says that the Braves will have more wins. And as good as Yamamoto is, he has to face that lineup, and he has to go against Acuna, and he's got to go against all the rest of the guys that are sitting in there as well. So we shall see. Lindsay, as always, they can find all your stuff at Braves Today. Lindsay's got articles up probably multiple times during the day. He doesn't have a whole lot else to do.
Nope.
It's absolutely, but it's very cool stuff. And it gives you a breakdown too. The money conversation that we just had, it gives you a complete breakdown of what is to come, what has been, because as he just said, he reminds you of what took place in 21 and who we sent to the mound during that time and still walked away with a World Series. So as always, absolutely love having you on here. Thanks a lot, Lance.
Thanks, buddy.